Hello, everyone, and a sunny welcome back to Move the Bowl, Please, a podcast hosted by yours truly, Sandra. I won't lie to you; it's been a minute. It's been a while. It has been, a bountiful rest from recording that I've taken, but I have returned, and I just want to thank you for tuning in again. I'll just cut to the chase. Your girl has been tired. I told y'all that 2024 was the year to get broken, and break me it did. Uh, I was very, very tired. Um, and from that tiredness, I told myself it was probably time to take a step away from recording and doing creative things for just a tiny bit because your girl needed to regroup. And even though there were certain times I had the itch to record, I had the itch to sound off, my camera died on me last minute. So that was kind of like a forced break on me, but we're back. But anyway, coming from that break, I was like, you know what? I want to come back with a positive vibe, with a positive feeling. So I was like, why not just share what I've been obsessed with for the past couple months? So this is just gonna be me talking about what the hell I like right now. Um, so yeah, this is gonna be what I'm obsessed with right now. So first of all, okay, I am. I'm sad to admit this, but I do own an Amazon Prime account. I know, I know. I know, because honestly, Amazon is probably like one of the worst things to ever emerge out of the 21st century. Like, really, like one of the worst creations humankind has ever made. But because it's so bad, I had to investigate how bad it is. And that investigation led me to watching a several amount of movies that Prime Video has as it at its disposal, uh, and I have just been so impressed with the garbage that I found. So impressed that I have coined a new term for specifically Amazon Video films, and I call them Amazon Blue movies, or just Blue movies for short. What is a blue movie, you may ask? A blue movie is literally a film that is kind of colorized in blue, mainly within the genre of thriller, horror, drama, anything that's going to be, somewhat scandalizing, somewhat demoralizing. I think for some reason, a lot of editors and film graders really like to tint everything in blue when they want it to be serious. And sometimes they just don't get the clue that, like, we can take in that it's dark by the themes, but I digress. Anyway, there are like an overabundance of these kind of films on Amazon, and because I'm shackled to capitalism and consumerism, I indulge. And some of the films that I've seen that I would categorize as blue movies are the following: The Guest, Mom and Dad, Loose, Every Time I Die, Don't Hang Up, Flight 666, Daniel Isn't Real, Bad Match. And these are just the few that I could remember. I've watched many more. And some of my favorite films are Amazon Blue movies. So I don't want to do too much. I don't want to do too much, but these are the ones that were too egregious to not talk about. So, I would definitely say that, like, overall watching bad movies is not a new thing. It's not like a unique pastime, but I find a unique, fascination in just kind of like getting too excited about them. Mainly because I feel like people treat bad movies the same way that they treat reality TV. in the sense that it's bad because we don't have big names attached to these films, right? Like, there are several films that, legacy directors have made that were complete garbage, but people don't really like to harp too much on them because of the name that they're attached to. But for a lot of these Amazon Blue films, they have, new actors, so people you haven't seen before. They have storylines that you probably wouldn't see in the mainstream. They have so much more room for experimentation and different kinds of concepts that it makes them inherently much more progressive than your typical blockbuster, right? Especially if you have a name attached, such as, your Scarlett Johanssons or your Chris Hemsworths. Like, these movies, the real area of, I want to say, experimentation and the field of battle, if I was to use warfare as a metaphor to describe these films. A lot of things are clashing and happening in these films. Some of the concepts are interesting, some of them really just kind of fall flat, but they still go after it. They still, have some sort of thing that they're trying to invoke in people. And I find that to be very, remarkable and just really, I find that to be brave. I don't know. That's just me, though. Okay. So, a couple recommendations I would give to anyone who wants to get into the genre of a blue movie. A few recs that I would give for them out of the list would be Mom and Dad. First of all, starring Nicolas Cage, the most unserious nepo baby you've heard in your life. I like how ridiculous Nicolas Cage is. He will not ever take a chance to just be a silly person. Like, he's just always on the silly goose wave, and I feel like a lot of people would appreciate that. The premise of Mom and Dad, first of all, it's a horror film, and it has a pretty good amount of gore in it. Not like super duper intense gore, but gore nonetheless. But the premise of Mom and Dad is that for some unknown reason, which you're never given why. This is a great thing about blue movies. They never tell you why things happen, they just do. And there's no real good in-depth plot. It's just things are occurring, deal with it. So one day, for some reason, a bunch of parents, mom and dads, end up having this irresistible urge to massacre their children, specifically their own kids. So, infanticide all the way up to, just full on, just choking out your teenage kid. I'm pretty sure those mean the same thing, but regardless. They just get this urge to just want to end the lives of their children. And this goes for every single biological mother and father for their children. It doesn't matter if it's if you're a grandparent, you're an older parent who sees their adult child. Every single human adult in this universe who has a biological child has the urge to kill them. And part of the rationale is that they kind of use the idea of other animals in the wild that have this urge to kill their children. I'm pretty sure they might have mentioned something about lions. Like, for example, lions can have this urge to kill their own children. And so sometimes they get surrogate parents or different parents, not their biological parents, to take care of them in order to preserve their lives. The film was directed by a stuntman. So a lot of the scenes, a lot of the pacing of the film is very fast. If you're looking for a fast, it starts off a little slow, but if you're looking for a really, really quick, sort of silly and intense film, definitely Mom and Dad is great. And if you're looking for the most insane, stills, there's too many images that come to mind of Nicolas Cage's eyes just bulging out of his head. It's fucking hilarious. And yeah, it's, if you're someone who also doesn't have the most perfect family dynamic, like if you and your biological parents are not, in good contact, in good standing, then this might elicit a laugh out of you. It's just so balls to the wall. It's like if a Family Guy cutaway was stretched into a film. That's what it feels like, Great watch. Another one is Daniel Isn't Real. Now, I think this was directed, or no, it starred the son of Arnold Schwarzenegger, which also, Arnold, why is that your last name? That's insane. Like, doesn't Schwartz already mean black in like Danish or something? Anyway, his son stars as the antagonist in this film, and the main character is played by like a Cole Sprouse dupe. So do with that what you will. And basically the premise of that film is there's this kid who lives in New York City. He is, I'm pretty sure, like it's implied and also explicitly said that he has a hereditary trait for mental illness, and it's mostly associated with schizophrenia. From what I remember from watching that film, because most of these films will feel like fever dreams, so this is all off the dome. But from what I remember, he and his mother are both living in the same apartment for a long time until he went away for college. But his mother has always been suffering with just, this mental disability. And so he, after getting a call from her caretakers, he ends up going back home and trying to help his mom kind of readjust to life. And from that time when he was away from her, because when he was a child, he remembered seeing something very traumatic, and that kind of triggering his own delusions, his own hallucinations. And as he comes back home to live with his mother, he starts to kind of slip back into those delusions with her, kind of like a folie à deux vibe, where there's this theory that but there's this theory that where sometimes if you're around someone who has any kind of mental ailment, that can be transferred to you. Very archaic, I would say, personally, but not fully debunkable. I wouldn't say that I know for a fact that that's not true, but I wouldn't rule it out as something that's happened before. And yeah, as he connects more and is living with his mother again, he starts to get these hallucinations where he sees Daniel, or Arnold Schwarzenegger's son, and at first it kind of feels kind of like nice, like, so I don't know anyone else who's ever felt like this, but I've always kind of wanted a twin, only in the sense that I've always wanted someone to like just immediately understand where I'm coming from and have someone to bounce off my ideas with. But the thing that's messed up about this situation is that his friend isn't real, so he's just kind of like portrayed as a guy who's losing his mind, which in the movie we're supposed to believe that he is losing his mind. But near the end of the film, it gets more surreal and more kind of abstract. So it's not to say that Daniel fully isn't a real thing, a real being. He's kind of given this like, deity status at some point. It gets really freaky, guys. But overall, I think the role that Daniel is supposed to play for the main character, I wish I remember his name. I don't. I feel like it was Tommy or something. I don't know. But the role that this imaginary friend plays for the main character is just someone who is empathetic, someone who is going to be on his side, who's going to be his, support. And I can see how that wasn't really met by his own mother. And so sometimes you can resort to making your own little, cheerleader in your mind that isn't really real, but that serves the same purpose as a support system, right? So I won't say that this movie is totally a blue movie, because it has a few points in it that are kind of like, oh my god, like I feel for this main character, like I kind of want to see him win. but there are still some weak points in it, like every other film like it. And I'm pretty sure some of the elements near the end, when it gets really surreal and weird, come from, some Lovecraftian influence. So think like creepy, disfigured creatures that are from different dimensions, that they can never be destroyed but can't really be explained. Yeah, that's the vibe. That's the vibe for Daniel Isn't Real. And then last but not least, okay, this movie. So Loose is a movie that I stumbled upon somehow, and it took me a couple watches to finish it all, but it definitely is, it's a trip. So Loose is a film about a young kid who is growing up, I want to assume, in the East Coast of the United States of America. He's like, your classic A-type. He's very sporty, very studious, very respectful, very clean cut. That's all, the image that he portrays. But deep inside of him is like this caged rage. And he is adopted. His adoptive parents adopted him from a war-torn country in Africa. Right? So very, very neoliberal, if you ask me. And his parents are two well-meaning white folk who just want to see their son, surpass and surmount these obstacles that he was born with, but he gets a second chance with them, right? And the thing that was so interesting about this movie was that they already kind of play on that like white savior trope that a lot of, specifically, I want to say like boomer or like Gen X white folk have when it comes to anyone who isn't born in the United States. Like the idea that being born in the United States is somehow like the most, like the highest pinnacle of luck in your life. Like, girl, relax. So there's like this tension that continues throughout Luce's life, right? Like the husband or his stepdad is like comes in and out with support for Luce as a person, whereas his mother seems like a doting mother, like seems like a very like progressive kind of person, but gets easily goaded into just assuming the worst of her son. And, as the movie goes on, more mysterious things start to get revealed, but are never fully explained, which is the thing about an Amazon Blue movie, is that you have to be curious. You have to be a detective sometimes. You have to pay attention sometimes, which is great, but paying attention doesn't mean that you're going to get your answers or your questions answered. So throughout this entire movie, there's this tension, and it gets sort of resolved at the end, but it's never really concluded. It's brimming with a lot of potential, I feel, and there are very chilling scenes throughout the film. Also, Octavia Butler is the antagonist for this film. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of pieces that were so perfectly placed that could have been really, really like interesting, but they kind of fall flat a little bit. But overall, great watch. Out of all the things I listed, Loose, if you're someone who really, really likes to toe the line when it comes to, race relations and shit, and like talking about shit that you shouldn't be talking about, I would suggest watching Loose. Okay, moving on from movies and film, because I have been bit by the perfume bug for a while now. Now listen, a girl loves to smell good. I love to smell like a dream. I want to smell like, I want to pleasure myself. No, I would like to be pleased with my own scent. I feel like it's only right that I do that. So about over a year ago now, I was working at just like this really freaky, I was working at a fan ass company. It was not my brightest moment. I just needed a job and they hired me. And then subsequently they let me go immediately because they knew that I just wanted a job. Anyway, from the time that I was working at this choice company, I was introduced to some of the best smells I've ever smelled in my life. And since then, I've been really trying to find a similar kind of experience, at least olfactory, in the olfactory. Is that a word? Yeah, in the olfactory sense. And I found it. I found it in Niagara Falls. Not in the water, but I found it in Niagara while on a family trip with my family. And the scent is Shams Al Emirat Hususi. I'm saying that so wrong. I'm so sorry. It's an Arabic perfume. And it smells fucking hot. It smells like the most good-looking person you've ever seen in your goddamn life. It smells like if someone that you were literally like fiending for, like drooling, like falling to your knees for, like was sitting in like the sun and was covered in fig and, you know, smothered in honey. Like it's just like, it's the most delicious thing you've ever smelled in your life. It's really strong with an apple, starts off with an apple vibe, and then it goes into those like just like sickly sweet like candy, you know, covering it just envelops you in this. And then it has definitely like a woody and like a bit of a spicy undertone to it. Guys, I want to do some freaky ass nigga things. I want to do some fan stuff whenever I smell this scent. It's also an oud, so it has that musky, that earthy, that real gushy stuff to it. So, and it ends clean. It has a very clean dry down. Fantastic stuff. I can't praise it enough. Every time I smell it, I get activated every time I smell it. So 100%, if you're looking for a really sexy smell, a really sexy scent that is very punchy but also like sweet and androgynous too, this is a scent that can work well on both genders, if you believe in that. It's amazing. And it's also affordable. That's the one thing that I love about a lot of you know, Arabic's perfume makers. They make their products affordable for those who are looking to kind of get into perfume, but don't want to completely break their wallet. And I, for one, love that. I love that accessibility. It's fantastic to me. Another scent that I really love, this is going a bit up in price, but I love CK1 by Calvin Klein. The scent is over 30 years old. They have never stopped making it because it's that girl. It is that girl, okay? And it's not even a girl. That's the great thing about it. It's another androgynous scent. It's another unisex perfume that works for anyone. It smells like lickable perspiration. It is really fresh, a lot of green, but I feel a lot of purple from it, mainly because of the lavender. I get the lavender really strong from my nose whenever I smell it, but it also smells clean. It smells like you've come out of the shower and you just naturally smell irresistible. Fantastic work by Calvin Klein. You know, and the thing that's great about it is that a lot of these, you know, classic scents, they also have a very strong brand that they never really go away from, they never really stray from. And from like the commercials of this scent, it's very much just like, you know, club vibes. It's very much, you want people close to you. You want to be like bumping into people. You want to be like rubbing shoulders with people. Very, very, very classic scent, very universal scent. You know, you really can't go wrong with it, and I love it. I got like 100 ml of it for like a little bit over $100, but it's worth it and it lasts, and the dry down is superb. It's sweet but short. And that's how I like it sometimes. And then last on this list, we're jumping up in price, by the way. I kind of went from like lowest price to highest price for you, for the dolls. Alien Goddess by Mugler. Fantastic. This was like on my like the highest on my scent want list, wish list, sorry. And I got it and no regrets. Absolutely no regrets. I was kind of going crazy on my bottle because I got a 200 ml from a retailer close to me. So happy I went for the big boy because I feel like I would have already finished my bottle if I gotten any smaller. And I thought about going smaller, but never go small. Go big or go home. I have this scent, and if I want to smell like royalty, if I want to smell like a freaking goddess, then I put that on, because that's what happens when you put Alien Goddess on by Mugler. You just become another creature. You transform. Like when like Sailor Moon transforms, that's what happens when you put that scent on. It is sweet. It is, a little tart. It's rich. It's like eating yogurt. It's like eating Greek yogurt. It's rich. It probably is Greek, honestly. It's also still light. It's like you're stepping on a rich cloud. Like you're bouncing off of the most illustrious material you've ever had in your life. It smells like wealth. It smells like the most lucrative temple that people have been visiting for millennia, for centuries, because they always get great, like big bountiful harvests from this goddess that they give offering to. It smells like pre-colonialism. That's what that shit smells like, and I will die on that hill. They immediately got it with the jasmine. I love jasmine. They got me with the bourbon vanilla. It just smells rich as hell. And that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. I want to be rich as hell. All right? So that's that with perfume. I kind of waxed a little poetic with that, but yeah. Last but not least, within my obsessions over the past few weeks is music. Now, I'm going to make a comparison here. I'm going to do a bit of a wide reach, but I'll bring it back home. I promise. So, the two albums that I've been really, just kind of impressed and thoroughly, absorbed by is Right Place, Wrong Person by RM and Blue Lips by Schoolboy Q. Now, if you know either of these artists, or if you know both of them, you can tell how big of a spectrum, how wide of a spectrum that might feel like. But let me land. So they're both two rappers that I've been listening to for a very long time now, at least 10 years at this point, which is crazy to say. But they've both been two people within the genre of rap and hip hop that I've loved a lot, especially because of what they bring to the table and the artistic vision that they have for the work that they do, right? I know RM mostly for his work within BTS, which, if you're not hip at this point, I don't know what you're doing. I literally have no idea where you've been. I don't know if you're even on Earth with us. But BTS is a 7-piece group from Korea, South Korea, and like you'd be confused with the other Korea. Anyway, they're a boy band from Korea who have been active since 2013, and they have really just been like the poster child for when it comes to the export of Korean pop music within the world, right? A lot of their messaging within their work as a group has always been positivity, combating prejudice, combating stereotypes, talking for the youth. Bangtanso년단 is their Korean name, and it loosely translates to like Bangtan Boys or something like that. And it's kind of hard to translate into English, but think of it as like the like Girls' Generation version, but for boys. So kind of representing this masculine, tough kind of vibe, but that also talks about important topics. And from that work that he's done there, he's kind of slowly but subsequently done his own work as a solo artist. And I really liked his singles, you know, but when I was listening to K-pop, when I was a big BTS stan, I was just there for the group. I wasn't really paying attention to individual artists, especially the ones that would break off, right? But I've always liked RM just as an MC. He has a great voice, really, really cool, slick rhymes, even though I don't understand half of them because I'm not a native Korean speaker. But I felt it. I felt the vibe. I felt it from the way that he would say it. I believed it. And I still do to this day. Now, I did a pretty hard pivot from K-pop. I used to be a K-pop stan, but I kind of weaned off come 2017, 2018. I just grew up. I couldn't keep up with being a stan. To this day, there are people who have been standing for years, and more power to y'all, but I am not as strong as you. So during that time, 2017, 2018, I started getting really into just American music, and overall just more English speaking musicians. And one of those was Schoolboy Q. I would listen like in parts to Blank Face. That was his 2017 LP, and then I finally became an adult and listened to the album front to back. No skips in the Blank Face universe for me. And one thing about Schoolboy Q is that he's gonna rap, and he's gonna rap in a way that you've never heard rap really being done these days. Like, I guess people could kind of give him comparisons to like folks like Tyler the Creator, or Old Dirty Bastard, or E40, but Schoolboy is in his own realm, and people might categorize his work as only being exclusively gangster rap, but I see it as more of like an experimentation on what rap looks like and what it can sound like. And so respectively, from like both of their beginnings kind of feel, well, no, they don't only feel, they are very different from these two projects that they both released pretty close to each other. Blue Flays came out in March of this year, and then Right Place, Wrong Person came out in March of this year. So, sorry, not March. Right Place, Wrong Person came out in May of this year. And I remember seeing them both come out and being like, oh my god, like, what? Like, I was just so pleasantly surprised. And then it took me a minute to get into both of their albums respectively, but once I did, I was like, oh, we're cooking with gas now. We're cooking with propane. And from those two projects, it's just so amazing to see artists take such big leaps of faith, such big artistic risks, and them paying off very well, I might add. Their fan bases are being kind of led through a different like sonic journey in both albums respectively, going from indie to rock to jazz. Just the breadth of experimentation that they take you on as a listener from top to bottom, it's just so fantastic. I just can't emphasize that enough. And while these two artists might not be close to each other geographically, I want to say their artistic vision isn't too far off from each other. And if you're someone who really enjoys hard-hitting rap, really, really great like voice and intonation, different kinds of emphasis within certain rhyme schemes and patterns, it's so dynamic, the way that they both rap. And if you're looking for people who will kind of do some sort of subversion, I feel like they're both the kind of artists who really want to kind of play around and kind of like shock the people, like shock the folks, like be like, oh, you thought I was gonna do this? I'm gonna do that actually. And that's what I'm into. I love that so goddamn much. And the things that I really love too was that they worked with artists that I've always wanted them to work with, or always thought would be so interesting if they did work with. Like RM working with Moses Sumney. If my 14-year-old brain, because I was listening to Moses Sumney at the same time I was listening to BTS, if I knew in 2024 that RM would be working with Moses Sumney, I would have literally had a seizure. Like that would have, I would have been over the moon, you know, and back down to earth. Same thing with Schoolboy Q and Rico Nasty. Them on that track pop, yeah. Enough said, you know what I mean? And the thing that I really like about what Schoolboy Q's been able to do is be able to maintain his signature style and signature content, like specifically like what he raps about, but also talking about like, you know, specific like social issues of the day. So a lot of the raps, even though they're typical like, you know, bravado, like, oh, I'm better than you raps, he talks about gun violence. You know, he talks about having respect and you know, venerating women, you know, like feminist vibes within his raps. He talks about you know, the effects of colonialism and racism in, you know, Black American life, and just talking about how you niggas just do all of this. Like too many of you niggas just do that, and not enough, you know. Anyway, all I have to say is that Schoolboy Q is definitely for adult listening. He is for the adults in the room, and I love that, you know. And I get that I get that more of a adult demographic for right place, wrong people, wrong person by RM. A lot of the lyrics, a lot of what he's saying is trying to reject that idea or that like image of a pop star that a lot of Korean artists get trapped with, you know. They get kind of infantilized by their fans. They get you know, defanged and kind of limited by, you know, the overall collectivist society that Korea is, because of how precious they are with their overall image when it comes to their best export, that being Korean artists, Korean pop artists. So on both sides of the coin, I think they're both really challenging what people think that they should hear from their music respectively, and I thought that was so poetic to have two projects only about like a month and some change away from each other, from two artists from two different sides of the planet, tackling not exactly the same but similar, like, you know, a similar esprit, you know, like a similar ethos, right? Like coming out and having an artistic vision and artistic you know, direction that, you know, older listeners will be able to follow through from top to bottom. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is to listen to each of these projects respectively from top to bottom. It doesn't really make sense otherwise, at least for the first like 10 listens. After that, do what you want. And I think like the best thing about these works is that they just show maturity. They really like get into the really introspective and necessary parts of growing up and, you know, becoming a person. I think RM is just a few years younger, or maybe not just a few years. I feel like Schoolboy Q is definitely much older than RM, but I wouldn't say that they're that far apart when it comes to how they portray where they are in life. You know, a good chunk of RM's songs kind of allude to his freedom that he's able to have now because he's a much older person. He you know, is tenured within the realm of Korean pop music, and there's like just little bits and pieces about, you know, him going to the club and him falling in love with someone and him being heartbroken, and, you know, as someone who used to be a K-pop stan, like the thought of my bias, because RM was my bias, like him having like a full-fledged life and, you know, it not involving me as a stan, like I'm so happy that he's at that point because, you know, Korean pop music is kind of an insane industry, but him being able to freely talk about this just shows how much of a journey he's been on, and how far he's come. And you know, you can't really get to that point without years of just sharpening and honing your craft, and honing your ear. And it's so evident with how perfect, I would say, right place, wrong person is. And same thing with Blue Lips. You know, Schoolboy Q doesn't really need much praise. He's such an acclaimed rapper at this point. Like at this point, you're just playing catch up with him. But I love how in most of the interviews he's been in, he's been very clearly telling folks that he's been rapping very, very hard. He's been in the booth for the past 5 years within the gap of his last project, and it's very evident. You can tell that he's just so much more confident, so much more sharper than he might have been before, if that's even possible, but it is. And it's just such a it's such a treasure, it's such a treat, you know. And you know, if you're looking for just some music to just nod your head to, just like if you need like to push through that last workout, or just get through those last, you know, couple hours of work in the office, these two projects are definitely some big recommendations that I would impart on you on my end. And honestly, that's all that I wrote down. And I'm also losing the light right now if you're watching this. So thank you so much for listening to me ramble. I definitely am looking forward to recording more often and taking it easy and doing it, you know, one step at a time. I am so happy that I get to indulge in all of these silly things and talk about it at leisure. And I think the one thing that I really am happy about, or something that I'm happy that I've kind of adopted more, is just not really caring. Like I want to get more into that bag and more into that mode of just making stuff because I like it, and that's what I care about right now. So I just want to thank y'all for tuning in to this episode. It's a bit of a shorter one for sure, but you know, you gotta start somewhere when you're trying to get back into something. You know, listen to Move the Bowl, please, wherever you can, however you want to, and I will be back at some point. So thank you for listening, and have the day you deserve. Okay, bye.